and welcome to another evening of frank conversation here on Hard Copy, coming to you from our studios in Abuja. I'm Maupe Ogun Yusuf. Compliments of the season to you and all of yours. We hope it really will be a season of joy and peace for you and your families, as well as our country, Nigeria. Now, one of the physical items which will be bringing joy and delight to many families in this season is food. And it is commonly said that any country that cannot feed itself is not truly free. Today, Nigeria has renamed its federal institution which oversees food as the Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security to reflect its aspirations in this direction. Yet, the journey to food security could yet be a long way off, as inflation figures continue to show that the cost of food items are a major driver of inflationary trends in the country. This ought not to be so, and the African Development Bank, under the leadership of Mr. Akinwumi Adesina, has been working hard to see how Nigeria, and indeed other African countries, through its Special Agro-Processing Program, SAPZ, can become not only independent of external sources for food, but also diversify their economy, that is other African countries as well, by adding value to the food and raw materials they grow. On Hard Copy tonight, I speak with Professor Banji Oyeyinka, who is currently the Senior Special Advisor on Industrialization to the President of the African Development Bank, where he is coordinating the establishment of agro-industrial processing zones and industrial policy in several African countries. Professor Oyeyinka, welcome to Hard Copy.
Thank you very much, Mokwe. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Indeed. Well, I mean, some exciting news that we came across while we were getting ready for this program, that you have been able to mobilize a whopping $2.2 billion in capital for this special agro-processing zones, which is now in its second phase, we understand.
Yeah.
What were the achievements of the first phase?
No, thank you very much. As we've had some discussions on these channels in the past, we started mobilizing for the Special Agro-Industrial Processing Zone in 2019. But recall, Dr. Adesina conceived this when he was Minister of Agriculture. And at that time, there was a lot of progress, but of course, political issues and stuff, it didn't get to take off in Nigeria. So he became president of the African Development Bank. We are now in 11 countries, in about 25 sites. We've raised about $1.9 billion for those countries, including Nigeria. In Nigeria, we have, in 2021, December 13, our board actually approved for 8 sites, 7 states, and FCT.
Yeah.
And we've been driving that.
Just a moment. You say $1.9 billion. Is that exclusive of the new 2.2?
Exclusive of the new one, yeah.
Okay.
So the 1.9 was for the whole of the African, all the 11 African countries that we were doing. So the 8 zones that we've been working on.
With the first phase.
With first phase. That's the first phase.
Yeah.
And I'm glad to report to you that now we are actually at the point of disbursement, meaning that we're at the point now where by the first quarter of next year, you start seeing construction. Construction, of course, is already ongoing in Ogun State. They move a bit further ahead than others. But the others now, at least 5 of them will sign off by middle of January. We're going to have a flag off ceremony, and I hope we'll be able to invite you to witness it formally.
So from 2021 to 2024, now we're looking at 2025 almost. Yeah. It seems that we're still being in the stage of conception. So
it's more than that. A complex project like this is it's like a marathon. By the way, the mobilization, the discussion, the advocacy, all of it started in April of 2019. We went to see President Buhari with Dr. Adesina,
So far longer than even the 2021.
Yeah.
Far further than even the 2021. Yeah. And yet here we are, how many years after we're just about to see something concrete
This is how,
in the first phase of 2025 or the first quarter of 2025.
This is the nature.
What has been the resistance? Because you would think that agriculture and agro-processing, that's common sense, especially for people who are looking for food security and, food reliance and industrialization, all of those things working together. What have been the roadblocks?
So the roadblock and barriers is that one, when we started in April 2019, we needed to really do a lot of advocacy because what stopped the first one was information asymmetry. People don't understand it. There was a lot of, when Dr. Adesina did it, you'll be surprised. It was ruined at the highest level because of disagreements, tough fighting. It should belong to agri, it should belong to industry, and all of that. And then he sat me down and said, before you embark on this, let me tell you the story. We spent almost 3 hours. He was telling me. So it was on the basis of that we actually designed this to be inclusive, to ensure that we don't have you don't carry me along syndrome in Nigeria. We touched everyone, private, non-public, everybody, every ministry. On December 20 of 2019, that was when we actually signed off. And I mean, every month was relentless, going here and there, talking to Minister of Water Resources, Finance, Agri. Everybody said, this is how we're going to do it, this is what we want to do. And we had actually a signing ceremony on December 20 with former Minister Zainab, who was presiding on that day. But then we were to resume work formally in February of the 2021, right? 2020, sorry. Then COVID came.
Oh.
Then 2022, then we started, how do we structure it, the financing, and all of that. Because it was quite a unique sort of arrangement in two ways. One, we were building a zone in what we call peri-urban areas. You are not going to build a zone in an airport or a seaport. Most zones are built there. So you import the inputs, intermediate inputs, like yarn or whatever it is, and then you process and ship away. But we decided, based on the objective we had, that this is about industrialization. It's about rural revitalization. We have to put the zones exactly where the poor people are. And that was the motive why it was more difficult, because then you are going to zones where you may have to do infrastructure from scratch. You may have to do all kinds of things in a way that was never done before. So we spend a lot of energy and time trying to, get that done. And of course, the financing structure also. The slogan for us is government catalyzed or government enabled, private sector driven. Learning all the lessons we've learned about zones all across Africa, we were not going to do a government-owned zone. It doesn't work. So this is part of the thing that took time also. Many people didn't, they say, I'm the borrower. Why should I not run it? And we say, yeah, you are the borrower. But the lender also has responsibility to their shareholders to ensure that when you use this money, we want to see outcome.
So you're more concerned about impact than even the return of the money to the bank.
We just want to see impact.
But it did mean that, the word spread rather fast, because before we heard what was happening, a lot of other states were interested. We understand 29 more states were now interested in the second phase of the program. Even states like Lagos, like my Lagos, that I would say, where's the land?
Yeah, exactly.
And clearly you're not discriminating, because all of those states now have signed up. They're doing their environmental impact assessment. They're submitting reports to the AfDB. We've seen quite a number of them, on your website. What exactly is the focus for even states that do not have the sort of land you think, or cannot be described as largely rural?
Yeah. So a state like Lagos is, relative to other states, highly urban. In fact, on the scale of consumer spending, Lagos State alone has more consumer spending than all the 13 cities in East Africa.
Wow.
It's how big it is. So a major thing that the Lagos is going to do, and we are talking to them, Lagos is the market, because you also need huge market for the produce that you are and the processed goods that you want to push out of those so-called rural, peri-urban areas. So Lagos is going to have a huge role to play in both as a consumer and also as a driver for all of this thing that we're going to be doing. So hopefully we're going to have the first 12 states in tranche 1, we call it. We constructed something called multi-phase framework. So we take the first 12, we take another 12. And thankfully, for the money we're able to raise, I believe that we'll be able to do a lot.
That's a fresh $2.2 billion.
Yeah, $2.2 billion, yeah.
So there is hope for the other states that it will be feasible.
Oh, yeah.
When are you looking for these? Well, the first phase, we've already been told, would start materializing perhaps most of 2025. For those who have now signed up to the second phase, when will theirs materialize?
So once we go to the board, I'm hoping that by the first quarter of next year, our board will have approved it. And given all the lessons learned in phase, we are not going to spend another 3 years like the other one. So, and many of them, in fact, have been engaging with us, the potential phase 1 and phase 2 states. Many of them were actually at the African Investment Forum 2024, December 4, when we had a big presidential boardroom. Many of the governors there were actually phase 2 governors. So they have seen it, they have embraced it, and they are also now actually seeking for partners.
But there are questions, while this is commendable, there are questions. There have always been questions around the use of land, for instance. I know that, yes, in Nigeria, there's the Land Use Act, which invests the powers of land in the hands of state governments. But we also know that rural people have an attachment to their land. So if you're saying that they have to work with private partners, there will always be that question of how the state government will acquire the land. There'll be questions of how, if these partners are big business holders, what exactly is going to be in it for the rural people? Are they just going to be workers on land that used to be originally theirs? So these are some of the delicate questions. How exactly is the SAPZ designed to work?
So SAPZ is an equity-based framework. We ourselves have designed into those framework ways to protect small farmers, young people, women. In fact, our partner IFAD, their main role is to protect small farmers and help them. And there are two pillars to the SAPZ. The first one is the hub itself. We call it the hub, so the factory. So just imagine your whole building here, and you see that here is the hub, where the factories will be, those who want to convert cassava to ethanol, those who want to process cashew, those who want to process sesame to oil, those who want to do whatever it is. Those factories will be within the hub, So basically that's the you might call it the factory system. The rest of this whole building, conceive it as the whole village for the SAPZ. So the hub, for example, could be about 500,000, 1,000, 200,000, 2,000 hectares, for example. So all of the other adjoining communities, we are also touching them. We are building, we ask actually every state to pick what we call the Agri-Transformation Center. So if, say, your hub is here, 20, 30 kilometers away from here might be the most optimal Agri-Transformation Center. And what does that do? We ensure that we build the roads to that ATC we call it Agri-Transformation Center, and then we construct the road to the hub. So when farmers produce, they don't lose their produce. Post-harvest losses, in some cases, can cost up to 60-70% of the losses, because there's no road, because there's no logistics, there's no cold room, there's no storage. So we build all of those into the ATCs. And that's the beauty of this unique aspect that I highlighted earlier, that it's a peri-urban arrangement that will also now dovetail into the urban areas. It's a way to ensure that these things you are asking me doesn't happen. And by the way, you were asking me about the roadblocks. The historical roadblocks is as follows. When countries are rich in natural resources, oil and the like, they move away from the tradable sectors, agriculture and manufacturing. It's an established thing in the literature. So this we want you to correct it. And when you move away from those, you don't industrialize, and there is no country in the world, apart from a few Middle East countries that use their wealth to just do whatever they need to do. There is no country in the world that has achieved any kind of modernity without using the agricultural space. It starts there.
I'm not going to doubt you, because I know that all your life's work has been around the industry and how, you want to see developing nations industrialize. Let me quickly ask you, recently the president presented the budget for 2025. And he did mention, even though it was just one paragraph, Nigeria's aspirations for the agriculture sector. And he admitted that we have had a crippling challenge with agriculture, which is insecurity. I'm trying to find, insecurity has crippled the agric sector. That was what he said. He used the word crippled, which is a very strong word to use there, which also shows that he admits how big the challenge has been to that sector. How has it been working on this particular plan you have and the challenge of security, especially within many rural communities?
So it's, I'm glad the president mentioned it. I was reading it before I came, paragraph 29. And
you marked the paragraph.
I marked the paragraph.
Okay.
And it was very clear that insecurity it is a challenge. It's a challenge always for countries, again, going back to the origin, natural resources. See the Niger Delta, see wherever there is huge natural resources, it diverts people's attention from productive work, productive, sector, and they fight over resources, So it's been historical. But it's been exacerbated in the last several years. So it is a problem. But the zones are going to be zones that are totally fenced round, particularly the hubs. And if you own an asset, if you own a home, you protect your home. And I always tell people that if you are serious in governance, one of the first things you protect is your economic assets. So we are going to be hoping to, and there's budget for it, to protect those zones. And we've read in the paper that the insecurity is diminishing. We pray that it continues that way. So it is a problem because farmers can't go to the farm. Even if you go to the farm, you get into trouble. We are hoping that all of those things will be stemmed in the couple of years. But we've taken it into account in the design of SAPs and the choice of zones. We've talked to all the governors themselves that you need to invest in really because you won't get investment.
Whilst insecurity is one aspect, you also mentioned the fact that you had to build infrastructure, building roads. But one major infrastructure, which we will need for industrialization is power. How is that being resolved, that challenge of power?
So we are working with private people and some of the, like I said, the partners, each state must have a partner. Many of the partners are also, going to be building the power system. We are talking to also other actors who want to do PPP within it. If you want to do 10, megawatts, 5 megawatts, you station it there and you collect your fee because it's a market. It's already market. So one of the reasons we have...
Doesn't power have to arrive before people want to build industries there?
Yes. So it's been built about the same time.
Okay.
So because the sequence is that you have a zone, you have a location. Once we agreed on the financing, we start disbursing. The partner and the government start building. And included in that is power. It's very key. So all of the partners know. If you are a zone builder, because we have those actors, the build, we call it DBO, design, build, operate. So what we are doing is selecting top class global DBOs They design it, they build it, they operate it. Then you have what they call the anchor investors, those who will come into the zone, and then other anchor tenants. For example, in the one in Ogun State, the people who want to build, they told us they almost have sold out about 40% already. About 26, 30 companies have already agreed to come into Ogun Zone.
To the capacity.
Yeah. So there's a huge appetite. Once an investor sees that this place is safe, is conducive to do business, because the market here is large. The market in Nigeria alone, is incredible.
So tell us, what are you hoping to see in the next 2 to 3 years with the implementation of the SAPZ, when it comes fully on board and all the other 29 states have embraced this program fully and we can see the implementation? What are you hoping that Nigeria would look like with the implementation of the program?
So I'm always dreaming, eh?
It's allowed to dream.
Yeah.
Yes, and dreams can come true.
The dream is coming to reality. I want to see a Nigeria where Nigeria is producing and exporting industrial derivatives. As I speak to you, you've heard of Sobitol, right? It's used for toothpaste. It's made from cassava.
And sometimes chewing gum.
Yeah, chewing gum. Make all of this. Everything is imported. I want to see Nigeria stop all those imports. I want to see Nigeria totally food sufficient in urban foods, basic stuff. I want to see the old Arewa back, whatever name is now called. I want to see Aswani busting with clothing. I want to see Nigeria is the one now exporting to the whole of West Africa. I want to see that, and I want to see...
The other African countries are listening. And don't forget, with the AfDB.
We are the leaders. Nigeria is the leader. We should be the leader. It's a big country. They look up to us. In fact, they tell us that, why are you guys not doing this? We should follow you. They are looking up to Nigeria. And I know that once Nigeria is developed, it will drag others along. This is what happened in Asia. Japan dragged South Korea. Korea, as an exemplar to Taiwan, Hong Kong, Singapore, Malaysia. All the others, yes. So we should be the driver, the regional driver of growth for this continent.
Well, may your dreams come true.
Amen.
May your dreams come true. But I wanted to quickly take you up on something, because you talked about, I know you've also done a lot of work on City Prosperity Index, or something I came across. I'm just wondering, if you were to rate the prosperity of our cities today, how would we fare? How would we rank? Is it something you just do as a pastime? Considering how much work you've done in that area.
It's interesting you are bringing this up. I came up with that when I was at the Habitat. I was in the UN. I spent 20 years in the UN. And one day we're flying from somewhere, and I was reading the new Oxford MPI, they call it, Multidimensional Poverty Index, which the MBS also now use now. Yeah. They just came up with it at the time. And I was sitting on the plane and wondering, why is everything always poor and days associated with Africa? And I said, why don't I just flip this around a little bit? Instead of poverty, I call it prosperity. Let's measure the prosperity of our cities, because I was in Habitat, which is dealing with cities and rural-urban migration and stuff. And that was how we came up with that index. And it's being used now in about 300 cities, actually. Basically, if you look at our cities, we are not where we should be. There are several drivers. One is the rural-urban migration, which turns our cities into slums, mostly, because people don't find work in the rural areas. And this is also one of the mitigating things that SAPZ is constructed to do, so that people can stay and live their lives in those places, so that everybody's rushing to Lagos, to Kaduna, to Enugu, to wherever, so that we can expand prosperity to where there's poverty. So what we know is that we're not where we're supposed to be, not even Lagos, And what about
Abuja?
Yes, Abuja, when you look at livable cities, in some form, yes, because Lagos scores low, especially because of
Pollution?
transportation. Yeah, pollution, transportation. In fact,
They won't be happy to hear that, considering the new
no,
rail
they
lines.
won't. They know.
The new rail lines.
Yeah, but I believe that Lagos is solving those problems, and it's a fantastic response. And I believe that this $1 billion that the governor raised for Purple Line is going to also, at our AIF, we've always supported Lagos State, is going to contribute to that. It's a reality. Because, Einstein said, the correct diagnosis of a problem is the beginning of the solution. If you don't admit to yourself that you have an issue, then you put your head like an ostrich, right? And pretend that So I think Lagos is going the right direction because transportation has been a major part. And of course, also the surrounding slums, will need to be dealt with over time. The thing is, we are consumption cities. That's another characteristic of African cities. Everything you see is imported. Everything. Cities that are innovative and productive should be centers where you have factories, centers where you have innovation, centers where you have huge, massive employment of young people. We have the opposite. All the sprawls, we call them sprawls, around the cities are slums. So that also has to change. When we build zones like this, people will migrate back. There'll be a reverse migration of urban to rural because they can live a better life where you have all the amenities they were all craving for that's in Lagos.
Well, I should say thank you for coming on Hard Copy, Professor Banji Oyeyinka. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you very much.
Well, that's the program tonight. You can watch any of our past episodes on youtube.com/channelsweb and also send us feedback using the handles showing on your screen. Thank you for watching. I'm Oyeyinka. Once again, a Merry Christmas and a very Happy New Year.